Lori again, and welcome back to my kitchen. I got a great deal on raw mushrooms the other day at Aldi, and so I bought a few cases of them, and as I was canning them, I thought, this is a really basic thing, and maybe some people don't know how to just simply can mushrooms. And so the opportunity is presenting itself that I can share with you how I can raw mushrooms in our home, and I hope it is useful to many of you. Now, mushrooms, I would like to tell you, are one of those food items that reduce so drastically in size when they're cooked that I feel it's one of the few food items that you really need to pre-cook before you actually pack them into your canning jars. It's kind of like cabbage, how you have this huge volume of raw cabbage, but when you cook it, it shrinks down to like less than half of its original size. Mushrooms are like that. So I strongly and highly suggest that you pre-cook your mushrooms before packing them into your jars. But it's a super, super simple project. This really takes hardly any effort at all. So I'm going to get started right away. One of the things that I want to share with you, years ago when I first started canning mushrooms, I felt like I had to wash my mushrooms. We wash everything else. We wash our fruits, we wash our vegetables. Of course, I would wash my mushrooms, right? Well, mushrooms become very slimy when they are soaked in water or introduced to water. And so I'll let you in on a little secret. When you are out at a restaurant and you go to the salad bar and you see those beautiful, fresh, raw sliced mushrooms, I can almost guarantee you that those have not been washed. And the reason is because after washing, that additional moisture really does start them kind of breaking down and decomposing. And so the salad bar doesn't want these lifeless, yucky looking mushrooms on their salad bar. And so most places do not wash the mushrooms. Now, I got to thinking about that quite a few years back, and I thought, why am I even bothering to wash these things? And so now I do not any longer do that. And just as a little added thing, think about the whole process of canning your food, heat canning your food. When you heat can your food, you are heating your food inside of your jar for a long enough time at a high enough temperature that you're destroying any type of germs or bacteria or anything that can be on or in that food product. So not washing your mushrooms is not any kind of an issue at all. So when I am preparing my raw mushrooms, all I do is I take just a dry rag or a dry paper towel and I just brush them off just to make sure that there's no growing medium on it. Sometimes there's little clumps of like fluffy type dirt or whatever on there. Just brush them off lightly, and that's all you need to do. And I used to actually take the time to cut off, the ends where when they were harvesting them, they cut them. And I don't even do that anymore either. So I just literally take my mushrooms and just brush them off. I'm using just one of those silly little cheap Dollar Tree washcloths that has kind of that, that kind of scratchy material on the back. And that soft scratchy material just really works amazing for just brushing your mushrooms off. So I'm going to get this last one so you can see right here that there is, hopefully I'll turn it the right way. You guys, I always get turned backwards when I'm looking at myself in the screen. I can never figure out which way to turn things. Anyway, you can see that there's a little bit of that growing medium on there. And so I just take my cloth and if I can get it in the right place, there, just brush that growing medium off. And I just check the rest of the mushroom underneath the caps to make sure that there's no growing medium there either. And that's all there is to it. Now, if you have smaller mushrooms, you can go ahead and leave them whole and can them that way. If you have larger mushrooms, you can choose to either slice them in half or you can just slice them completely. Do that with a knife, do that with a mandolin, or like what I'm going to do today, I'm going to be using my KitchenAid mixer and I have my food processor attachment on it. And when I'm doing such large volumes of things, sometimes I just resort to power tools. And so this is my power tool for the day, my KitchenAid stand mixer with the food processor on it. Now, the food processor on the KitchenAid differs from a regular standalone food processing unit. A regular standalone food processing unit is a container that, you can chop things in or slice things in, but it all gets held in that container. And you eventually have to stop your machine, take the lid off, dump your stuff out, put it all back together. The really great thing about this, and I'm not really stumping for KitchenAid, but maybe I am kind of stumping for KitchenAid. There's a couple of these attachments that I absolutely adore, and this food processor is one of them. You put your vegetables or whatever you're chopping in the top of it, and it falls right through the bottom. There is no stopping and emptying and dumping, nothing. It just goes straight through the machine and into whatever vessel you want to catch your food with. And so today what I'm doing is I have a large stock pot because this is how I'm going to cook my mushrooms down, is in this large stock pot today. And so I'm literally just going to slice my mushrooms right into that stock pot. So I'm going to get started, and if you don't have one of these things, you can just witness how wonderful it works. I'll just have a couple of minutes of footage of how quick and easy and wonderful this particular attachment for the KitchenAid is. Now sometimes I break off the stems so that it fits down in the chute a little bit better. Now KitchenAid themselves would be really mad at me because I'm not using my plunger, but I'm not going to get my fingers down in there, you guys. So, but look at how quick and easy. There's just no way that you can chop this many mushrooms in this short of time, or slice them, or whatever you want to say. This thing is absolutely amazing. All right, back my machine up there. Look at this. Look at how absolutely beautiful that thing slices. It is just amazing. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to slice the remaining amount of mushrooms, and then I'm going to set up over by the stove, and I'll be back and we'll continue in just a minute. Okay, so before I head over to the stove, I wanted to show you the next step since I'm right here at the sink. And what I do now is I just barely cover the mushrooms with water. And I am actually using, well, I was using hot tap water. It's not very hot anymore. But hot or cold tap water, it's just totally up to you. Hot, of course, you would be able to bring up to a boil a little bit quicker. My water heater is obviously not working with me very well today. There's the warm stuff coming. But one of the things I do want to say is that mushrooms float. And so when you're filling your vessel up, when you're filling your mushrooms up with water, make sure that you're kind of pressing down to really figure out exactly where that water level is. Otherwise, your mushrooms are just going to float on top and they're just going to move up with the water. So make sure that you kind of know where you're at in your water level. And hopefully you can see here now that I'm almost, see, I've got water pressing up there. I'm almost to the point of covering my mushrooms, but not quite. Okay, so that's the amount of water that you want, almost covering your amount of mushrooms. Okay, so now that I have my water in the pot, I am going to move over to the stove and we will resume from there. All right, so I brought my mushrooms covered with water over to the stove. Now what I would like you to do is add a couple of tablespoons of either lemon or lime juice. And you can increase if you have more volume or decrease if you have less volume. But now remember that I have 12 8-ounce packages of mushrooms. I have an entire case of mushrooms. And I'm going to add about 2 tablespoons of lime juice today to that. And what that does... Sorry, I got to kind of think while I'm squirting it in here. What that does is it kind of enhances and brightens the flavor of the mushrooms, and it also kind of preserves the color of your mushrooms. Now, this is not necessary, but I do prefer to add it, and you do not taste it at all right? You're not going to taste the lemon, you're not going to taste the lime, but either one of those things will preserve the color and kind of brighten the flavor of your mushrooms just a little bit. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to turn on our burner and bring our mushrooms up to a boil. And then we will reduce the heat and simmer them from in between 5 to 10 minutes. Now remember, my pot is really, really full of mushrooms, okay? And our whole objective here is to reduce them to half of their original size, okay? So bring to a boil and then turn down your heat and simmer for 5 to 10 minutes. And then we'll return and get them jarred up. You guys, I totally forgot to tell you, I do choose to cover my pot when I am boiling and simmering, okay? But these are one of those things that you really want to watch carefully because they kind of foam up and they will boil over really, really easily. So don't wander too far away from your stove when you're doing the cook down process. So I'll be back in just a short while after I simmer these mushrooms. All right, you guys. I have to laugh at life sometimes. Do you remember how I told you to watch your pot because it can easily boil over? I got distracted trying to teach our brand new ducklings that just hatched how to eat. And all of a sudden I heard this pss, pss, pss out in the kitchen, and here my mushrooms had boiled over. I have got such a mess on my stove. I've got a mess on my lid. Oh my goodness, life is just hilarious. But anyway, take me as an example. When I told you it can boil over easily, it can boil over easily. Look at that mess on my lid, guys. All right. So anyway, let's get back to it. At least I can laugh about it, right? So we have reduced our mushrooms literally to half of the original size. Hopefully you can see that. You know, remember my pan was way filled up with raw mushrooms, and now we have reduced them down to half the size. And in the meantime, while I was simmering the mushrooms, I did get my canner prepared, and it's nice and hot because remember, whenever you're doing a hot food item, you always want to put that into a hot canner. If you're doing cold food, put it into a cold canner. But today we're obviously working with very hot items, and so we're going to put them into a hot canner. So I have clean jars. Let me page down just a little bit here for you. And there we go. I have my clean jars prepared. And all you're going to do is you're going to take a slotted spoon and just scoop out the mushrooms from this wonderful brine and fill your jars to 1-inch headspace. All right, and these really don't require you to pack them in there or anything. Just get them up to 1-inch headspace. I'm using wide mouth jars here because I'm really running low on pint-sized jars and I just don't have any other options today. I normally don't use wide mouth with mushrooms. I use just a regular mouth jar. But like I said, you just go with what you got. And after you get those mushrooms in there to that 1-inch headspace, as you can see here, right up to that glass lip that's underneath the threads of the jar, then take and fill right up to that same 1-inch headspace. Fill your jar with fluid from your blanching container where you've cooked your mushrooms. Right up to the same level as the mushrooms. All right, beautiful. And then we are going to, just like any other project, we are going to wipe the rim and place a clean, flat end ring. Fingertip tight and into the hot canner. So again, got to grab my hot pad here. Scoop out your solid mushrooms. Fill your jar to 1-inch headspace. And then fill with your blanching fluid. Right to that same 1-inch headspace. All right, so I'm going to just continue filling my jars up here, and then we will continue at that point in time. Okay, so I have all of my solid mushrooms packed. Now I want to show you another little trick. This wonderful, rich blanching fluid that you have cooked your mushrooms in, this is a beautiful mushroom stock. And what I do is I go ahead and I can this up along with my mushrooms. It's wonderful for like soup base or mushroom gravy. You can find so many things to do with this wonderful flavored stock. So even though there may be a few little remaining bits and pieces of mushrooms in there, that's not going to be a problem at all. You go ahead and can this stock up also. And if you're doing it alongside, in the same canner as your mushrooms, you will just can it at the same time as your mushrooms. It won't hurt it at all. Now, if you want to can it just as a broth, it would be like a vegetable broth or a beef broth or whatever. You would want to make sure that you don't have a whole lot of solid particles in the broth, and you can PC just the broth for pints 20 minutes and quarts 25 minutes. But it does not hurt it to go as long as what the mushrooms are going to require. And the mushrooms are PC 45 minutes for pint-sized jars. Now, if you want to water bath, pints of mushrooms in a hot water bath is 3 hours. Pints of broth are 2 hours in a water bath. So I'm just going to continue just jarring up this beautiful mushroom broth. We love using this as gravy, particularly over hot beef commercial platters, where you have your mound of potatoes and your hot beef sandwich, and then you just smother the whole plate with gravy. This makes amazing gravy for hot beef commercial platters. It makes a wonderful soup base. You can add it to casseroles for added flavor. When it is absorbed into pasta, it's just amazing. So I'm going to go ahead and find a few more jars here and continue to fill my canner up and continue using up all the rest of my wonderful mushroom stock. And I will be back once I have it all ready in the canner and ready to start the pressure canning process. All right, so I finished jarring up all of my wonderful mushroom stock too. And now all I'm going to do is place the lid of my Presto canner. I'm going to bring this to a vent. I will vent for 10 minutes and I will bring it up to pressure appropriate for my altitude, which I live in an altitude where I can use 10 pounds. Please check that yourself online. If you're over 1,000 feet, you need to be at a higher poundage. But anyway, we're going to vent for 10 minutes and then we will PC these for 45 minutes. Now, like I said before, if you are going to a hot water bath, you would hot water bath your mushrooms for 3 hours. Now, your mushroom stock can be water bathed for 2 hours, but if you're going to do it all in the canner, it really does not harm it to go the extra time that's required for the actual mushrooms for either the PC or the hot water bath. So I'm going to get these processed and then we'll be back and I will show you the beautiful results. Okay guys, so I'm back. My canner has cooled off quite a while. We kind of had an emergency here. Our son was in an automobile accident and I was called to the scene, but he's okay. So I guess this is just a little reminder to hug and to tell the people you love that you love them every day, because we never know what is going to happen. God blessed us with his safety and the safety of the other driver. But no day is given to us. No day is promised. So we just have to rejoice and feel blessed each day that we are alive and well and together. So anyway, my canner has cooled off for quite a while. So I'm just going to remove my lid and I will show you the wonderful results of these mushrooms. I've got my mushroom stock here on top, and you can see a few of those just random leftover pieces of mushroom in there. But look at how beautiful and rich and dark that mushroom stock is. It's actually really amazing stuff, really good stuff. All right, so I had some half pint jars here. I'm kind of running out of pint jars in my house. I need to go out and find some more in storage. But I had some half pints clean and ready to go here today. So I just opted to put some of them in half pints. Okay, I have my separating rack that I got out of the way. And now we'll get down to the actual mushrooms. I do have a little bit more mushroom stock or broth in that bottom layer, but look at those beautiful mushrooms. Absolutely gorgeous, gorgeous results and beautiful color. Got a little of that cream of tartar. A little of the cream of tartar fog that I'll wipe off of there and see if you can see it a little bit better. There we go. Look at how beautiful those are. And they are actually still boiling. That's wonderful. Beautiful mushrooms. Anyway, this is such an easy canning project. Anybody can do this. If I can do it, you can do it too. And you just know that you're not adding anything extra to your food that you don't want in there. That's the beauty of canning. No preservatives, no additives. It's just the good, wholesome food that you put inside your own canning jars. These are going to make lovely, lovely meals. I'll put this in, probably pot roasts and maybe over steaks or pork steaks or chicken and mushroom meals. It will be used in so many ways. And this wonderful mushroom broth will be used in many ways too. I use that in hot dishes or casseroles. I use it a lot for gravy, like I said, over a hot beef commercial. But just so simple. So I hope you enjoyed all the information that I shared with you today. Thank you for spending your time with me again. God bless you all, and happy canning, everybody.